Hi everybody, I'm back and today we're heading into West Smithfield, formerly known as Smithfield. It's been a site of butchery of animals and human beings for over 1,000 years. Now, I'm going to go through the history of the area, but there's so much to see here, so just bear with me. I did briefly mention St. Bartholomew's Hospital, and I'm going to show you that right now in my previous Old Bailey tour about execution sites. But here it is right now, and I want to turn it around so you can see where we are. Thanks for joining me, you guys. And by the way, you've been amazing. The subscriptions are fabulous. The comments are amazing, and I will try to I do the best I can to try to remark and reply to all of your comments. But thank you so much for the support. It means the world. It's a hot day in London today. It's in the high 30s, so we're looking at about 80 degrees. But first, let's start today with St. Bartholomew's Hospital. Now, ladies and gents, an incredible place. There's been a hospital on this site for nearly 900 years. St. Bartholomew's Hospital was founded by a monk called Rahir in 1123. Now, here's a young chap who's just graduated as a medical student from St. Bart's, but has been the centre of care of excellence for nearly, it serves about 2.5 million Londoners, and it's specialists in cancer care treatment in here as well. There's an amazing history with regards to the monk who founded it. 1123, he was a court jester to Henry I, and Henry I, when his son died, went into complete depression, and Rahir the monk headed off on a holy pilgrimage to Jerusalem, and he contracted malaria whilst on his travels. Now, whilst he was in a kind of delusional sickness, when he was nursed back to health, the Saint Bartholomew came to him in a dream and told him he wanted him to build a hospital for the sick and the poor in London. And what he did was he ended up building this in the St. Bartholomew's Church Priory, which is also in the area. So St. Bartholomew's has been massive history in London over the years, but I want to get back to the rather dark history surrounding St. Bartholomew's Church, and that involves the surgeons. Now, in the late 1800s, and particularly around the 1700s, there was a lot of executions in this city, and bodies were plentiful, as it were. Of the executed bodies were used for anatomical research. But coming up more in the 19th century, only about 55 people a year were being hanged, because in the 1800s and 1700s, people could be hanged for stealing an apple, which is quite bizarre. So what happened was the surgeons were in desperate need of bodies for anatomical research. So they would pay top dollar to what were called the resurrectionists, or the body snatchers. And just when we're coming up here, on an incredible street here, it's called Cock Lane. And Cock Lane, which is a rather bizarre name, but in the area we're heading towards Smithfield Market. So there would have been a site of butchery of animals for years. So you'll see Cowcross Lane and Cock Lane and Cow Lane, all in this area. But you'll see this little golden boy here. The boy is in the memoriam put up for the late Great Fire of London, because this is the furthest part that the fire came. So it started on Pudding Lane and finished here on, well, it was originally Pie Lane, but now it's Cock Lane. And this golden boy is to represent the gluttony. Some people believe that it was punishment from God, from Jesus Christ, for the gluttonous and immoral behavior of the people during the 1600s. So, but this was also the location of a pub right on this site called the Fortune of War. And the Fortune of War was used by resurrectionists and body snatchers to display the dead bodies they would steal from the graveyards. And the surgeons from across here in St. Bartholomew's Church would head into the pub on the former site of the Fortune of War and literally peruse these dead bodies. And actually, we can read it out here. I just want to read this for you because this is very interesting history. The boy at Pie Corner was erected to commemorate the staying of the Great Fire, which beginning at Pudding Lane was ascribed to the sin of gluttony, when not attributed to the papists, as on the monument, and the boy was made prodigiously fat. To enforce the moral, he was originally built into the front of a public house called the Fortune of War, which used to be occupy the site and was pulled down in 1910. So just bear with me one sec. So the Fortune of War was the chief house of call north of the river for resurrectionists in body snatching, years ago. The landlords used to show the room where on benches round the walls the bodies were placed, labelled with the snatchers' names, waiting till the surgeons at St. Bartholomew could run round and appraise them. So quite bizarre, but of course after the very famous Burke and Hare case in Edinburgh, and my colleague Margaret will be doing a tour of Edinburgh shortly, and I'm sure she'll be mentioning Burke and Hare. They were very famous body snatchers too. However, they began killing people and their plot was uncovered, and that's when the Anatomy Act came in, and that forbade surgeons. But now the Centre for Excellence. But where are we now? We're in Smithfield Market, ladies and gentlemen. Now originally this was called Smithfields, and this is all an extension of St. Bartholomew's Hospital. And the reason we're here is again execution, ladies and gents. As I've previously mentioned, it's been a site of execution for over 1,000 years and a site of butchery of both animals and human beings. Smithfield Market itself is the largest wholesale meat market in the country, and it's been trading here for, again, over 1,000 years. But every year in August, you had a massive fair here, and it was called the St. Bartholomew's Fair. And that took place around the 23rd of August for 2 and 3 days. So it was originally also used as a cloth fair, so it was called a cloth fair. And right in the centre here, thousands of people from all over the country would arrive, and they would bring their animals with them. The chicken and the geese and the ducks may have to travel long journeys, so they used to even put little bits of cloth to protect their feet as they came through the area. So in this area is where this massive fair took place, and that was the precise reason one of the most famous executions of them all took place here on the 23rd of August 1305. Now this execution you will all be familiar with, and it was one of the most brutal in British history. So you had various forms of execution. Hanging we've spoken about, but for the highest form of treason, your punishment was to be hung, drawn and quartered. Now this is not for the faint-hearted. I'm going to be quite descriptive here, ladies and gents, so if you are any bit squeamish, this is probably not the time to tune in. But alas, you will see the Scottish flag in the background. This was the execution site of William Wallace. Now William Wallace was tried in Westminster Hall in the Palace of Westminster. He was found guilty of treason, the highest form of treason in the land, and he was sentenced to be executed here during St. Bartholomew's Fair Day. The reason for that is the king wanted to make sure there was maximum exposure, and thousands of people would see William Wallace be executed. Now William Wallace was stripped naked at the Tower of London. His feet were bound to a horse and cart. His body was dragged about a mile journey along the rough road, and his skin was shorn to the bone when he arrived here. When he did arrive, wreathing in agony, the next form of execution only begins. And that is when they hang you within an inch of your life. And they hang you within an inch of your life, just enough to keep you alive for the next part of the execution. And the next part of the execution involved emasculating you. They cut off his penis and his testicles, and then they burnt them in front of him, and then they carve a hole in your stomach, ladies and gents. And when they carved that hole, They finally remove your intestines, and then they quartered him and sent him to 4 different parts of Scotland. His head was boiled in tar and was put on a spike on London Bridge, so pretty brutal. But not only was William Wallace executed here at Smithfield Market, and there is the stunning Sir Horace Jones building.
So if you're enjoying the tour so far, go ahead and hit the like button. It helps others discover the video. If you'd like to see more videos like this one, subscribe to our channel. We have walks along the Thames, through Westminster, Camden, all over London. Visit our website for more about our tours, our travel tips, and more. We also have virtual tours and channels that focus on DC, New Orleans, New York, and more. Look for free tours by foot wherever you travel. You can support your guide with virtual tips, links in the description, and let us know what else you want to see. Leave a comment below. Now, back to the tour.
You'll be familiar with Sir Horace Jones if you watched my Leadenhall Market tour. This is a Victorian building again. He built Billingsgate Fish Market and Smithfield Meat Market. You'll wonder why there's no butchers around the area, because they work through the night, you guys. It opens up, they open up their meat market at 2 o'clock and they're all done by 7 in the morning. And that's why, interestingly, if you're ever looking for a late drink in London, all these pubs, some of these pubs will open at midnight to facilitate the butchers in the area. But you see this site right in the middle here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to walk right inside. And this is actually quite scary. It always terrifies me in here. This is probably one of the most haunted places in London. Around here was the favourite execution site of Bloody Mary. And Bloody Mary, it's estimated she burned up to 280 people alive at the stake right in the centre here of Smithfield Market. Now, Bloody Mary was Mary the First, never scheduled to be queen. She was the daughter of Catherine of Aragon, the first wife of Henry VIII. And she was the famous Catholic queen. And when Henry VIII had a son with Jane Seymour, she was effectively banished from court. And she lived a life of a princess with her sister Elizabeth I, but she was also banned from seeing her mother. So during the Reformation and the instigation of Protestantism, if you like, by Henry VIII, when he couldn't divorce her mother, Thomas Cranmer actually orchestrated that divorce, if you like, and she would later get a revenge against him. He married Anne Boleyn and he had Elizabeth I. But when Henry VIII died, Edward VI, his son, took over. Now, he was a very young king and he only lived till the age of 15, so that's when Mary I came into power, and she was the famous Catholic queen. So she burned about 280 Protestants, as she called them, heretics, alive at the stake here. Bloody Mary is her nickname, and she was so brutal, she insisted redwood wasn't used because there was a danger you would asphyxiate before you felt the flames burning and tearing at your flesh. 280 of them she burnt alive here. Rumour has it that she was so brutal, she used to put little kittens, 300 kittens, in the middle of the wood, so that the kittens screaming in agony when dying of being burnt alive would represent the souls of the devil, bringing the heretics to hell. So not only has it been a site of butchery for animals, the most famous execution, William Wallace, also Bloody Mary's execution site, but they also found remains of bodies from the Black Death here over the years. And this is the meat market in Sells, and it's a stunning, stunning building. So you'll see some rather bizarre names around the area as well, like of the names of the pubs, the Butcher's Hook. So well, let me just take you in here. The smell isn't for the faint-hearted, but it has been trading, as I mentioned, for over 1,000 years. Now there's rumours, and I have seen this quite a bit actually, that it's going to be moving out, and apparently this space is going to be occupied by the Museum of London. So what an incredible place, because if you follow down, you'll come down here towards Farringdon Station, and Farringdon Station is going to benefit now from the Crossrail, the new Crossrail train extension in London. which is going to literally bring people from the east and the west right here to the station. So it's going to be a major transportation hub. But look at this exceptional building. I mean, this is Horace Jones again. I mean, it's not difficult to see the comparisons between Horace Jones's work here and Smithfield and Billingsgate. But there has been rumours over the years that the several butchers have said they can smell burning flesh at night time. It's very haunted in the area. They say that ghosts have been seen and you can hear screams of bodies at night time, and the screams of people being burnt alive at the stake. So definitely one of the most haunted places in London. Now that annual fair, as I mentioned, did take place, and thousands of animals would meet their end in this market, this butcher's market. There's some of the old telephone boxes, so let me just show you around again. But what's quite interesting as well is that people themselves that were being executed, they believe the more extreme the punishment, or the more extreme the pain they experienced during execution, the quicker they were to get into heaven, and the most likely they were. Now, when you head down this street here, it's going to bring you down towards Farringdon Station. Now, of course, it is very close to the City of London. So, in fact, it has now become an amazing place to eat. Now, can you imagine the amount of fresh meat that you would be, the beautiful restaurants here. There's so many Michelin star restaurants along the way. But of course, your source of your butchers is right around the corner. So they're supplied every day with the meat at the meat market. But it's become very trendy down here. But look at this beautiful laneway, you guys. So this takes you right down towards Farringdon Station. Now, what I like to think of is the hundreds of thousands of sheep arriving here up to this area, and the cows would travel for miles being brought here for the fair days, losing considerable amounts of weight. In the Smithfield Market area as well, I read recently, you could actually sell your wife. Men would come to sell their wives when they've had essentially enough of them. They weren't allowed to divorce them, so what could they do? Only sell them on to the highest bidder. So men would actually come to the area too to sell their wives. Now, this area features very heavily, by the way, in our ghost tour of London, which is usually conducted by my wonderful colleague Matt. So there you have it, ladies and gents, Smithfield Market, and it brings you all the way down here towards Farringdon Station. Now, you can also approach it like I did this morning, this afternoon rather, from St. Paul's. And the market itself for meat operates Monday to Friday from 2 a.m. in the morning till 7 a.m. So you'll know where to go if you want to get your steaks or your lamb cuts, etc. Now, it is Monday, so there isn't an awful lot of drinkers around. This is apparently today is Freedom Day, where everybody is allowed to, all the restrictions have been lifted, including mask wearing. The less opinions I have on that, I think the better. But my Freedom Day is coming on Friday, you guys. I am heading to Ireland for 10 days, so I'm more than happy to bring a little video camera with me. I thought I might do a little video, ladies and gents, around my hometown in Ireland, which is the beautiful Killarney, County Kerry. Lakes and mountains, so very different than London. So if you would like the idea of that, just give me a yes at the bottom of this video. It might not be for you, but I know a lot of you, when you do travel back to the UK, you will be heading to Ireland, and Killarney is one of the top tourist destinations in Ireland because it's that pretty there. This is another beautiful famous pub, and there you have Cowcross Street, and that would take you right back up there towards Smithfield Market, one of the most famous execution sites in London. So, one more to do. I will be bringing you to see the Tyburn Gallows, and we will be heading also towards Tower Hill. But in the meantime, I'm going to finish up right here, you guys. Time to do another Jack the Ripper tonight. Thank you again for watching. I'm doing little shorter videos because I want you to learn a bit more about execution in this city. So they'll be about 15 minutes. And I'll just show you some of these buildings down here as I'm finishing up. But Farringdon serves the Metropolitan line. This was one of the very, very first stations in London. And the Underground here in London, established in 1863, is the oldest underground rail network in the world. The prototype for undergrounds all over the world, in fact. But I'll just take you down. You'll see Farringdon Road here. There's an amazing selection of restaurants again down here. Sorry, I am going to finish up very shortly. I just wanted to get away from the noise there for a minute. But I just want to let you know I am heading home. I will be bringing the camera with me. I will be doing some videos in Killarney, County Kerry. But more importantly, I want to thank you most sincerely for all your support, your subscriptions, your fabulous comments. This is a great ride for me too. I'm enjoying every minute of it, you guys. Many, many more videos coming up. So please, if you know anyone that you think would enjoy our tours, please don't hesitate to get them to subscribe, share, alike. The more subscriptions we get, the more tours we make. And thank you again, because some of you have been absolutely overly generous with your donations on PayPal. I have more than enough at the moment for my gin in Ireland, but there's always room for more. So if you want to leave me a little tip, you're more than welcome to do so on my PayPal or buy me a coffee. But more importantly, you joining me is even more important again. So thank you very much, you guys, and I will be back very soon.